Welcome to ShiftWatch. I'm your host, Starbuck. In this episode, during the interviews with Tara at Ethereal Edge, we discussed the possibility of doing a live stream on Zoom to answer questions in real time. So here is that podcast's live Q&A with myself and Dave Wallace. Next, Western Nevada and Arizona earthquakes continue swarming in areas new to this behavior. The Earthmaster brings us his perspective on these phenomena. And Ben Davidson at Space Weather News describes Earth's magnetic crochet with the sun and explains what those auroral impacts actually represent. Then, 7 signs you are a rare multidimensional chosen one. This video from Vibration of the Universe explains what these signs are. And finally, the full story of the Emerald Tablets from the Library of Thoth. Every human should know this.
And when they come down to benefit mankind, there's always a lesson, and we're expected to listen carefully and to be very grateful and thankful for their presence. So I would guess, Lowell, that those are contacts from Inner Earth, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, without question. And Dave and I were talking the other day about kind of where we are right now in our journeys. And over the last few years, we were compelled to share what was going on, not just the contact that we had, Dave's experiences off planet, and what happened since then. I know Dave had the same impulse that I did, that we were here to help everybody else kind of come to terms with the stuff that had been presented to us and that had made its way to us and just resonated in a way that you just can't ignore anymore. So now that these things are coming into focus, my experience to begin with was with inner earth beings. When Dave came along and trained me like he's trying to train everybody else how to make communications with beyond earth sentience, man, that started to kick into me too. So now, when we talk about contact, to me, it's all getting kind of really fuzzy because we're just acting as the in-betweens right now. But what thrills me is all of you that are showing up have been chosen. And that phrase came my way this week. And in the past, I had ignored it because I just thought it was one more thing to feed your ego with. But I can't deny that every one of you that are here listening to this right now are taking in the information you're supposed to take in. And your Akashic records are revealing things and restoring things to you at a rapid rate for reasons that we understand. But I'm just thrilled when I hear the rest of you, because I got mine. You get yours is kind of my attitude and what Dave and I were talking about the other day. But for the tribe, we're solidly here for all the rest of you. We share the parts of our journeys because when we hear about yours, it gives more validation to ours. And so thank you when you share that stuff with us. We know it's real. We know it. We know it's been covered up for too long, but we're not focusing our attention on whatever went wrong or why we're not learning what we should learn, because we're being spoken to directly. We're not waiting to hear it from anybody else. We were picked to have these communications with. So that was a long answer to your question, Terry, about whether I think that that's inner earth related. I absolutely positively do. And Dave was right when he talked about that area beneath the Grand Canyon. Let me kind of correct the idea about Telos, first of all. Yes, Telos is the capital city located beneath Mount Shasta, but when Lemuria was Lemuria, Telos was a territory and covered most of Western North America. That whole section of it was a part of Lemuria. And when it broke off, now can you see why the vibrations between Sedona and Shasta seem to be familiar and everything in between? Well, it's got Lemurian energy that just kind of radiates through it all the time, right? Yeah.
The Earth today in terms of earthquake activity, starting off here on the west coast. Still got a pretty good swarm of activity out here across western Nevada. That's been amplified out here for quite a while, including, you can pretty much draw a line from about Carson City area southward along the mountain range and then westward here, southwestward on a, just north of the Garlock Fault shear zone, showing some activity. But this is a very similar pattern to what took place there last year when we noticed a bunch of forests starting to kick up there across Southern California. So I believe the strain out here on the plate boundary is adding that type of movement that we're seeing here on the map right now. A lot of pressurization going on up north here, the interaction between the Pacific and the North American plate. That, obviously a little concerning because we could see some larger activity out here. But very noticeable pattern here across western Nevada, stretching all the way back towards the just south of Bakersfield. A little bit of larger movement, not large, but larger than these microquakes, 3.5. Out in Arizona, this is the second earthquake out here, I believe, in this region. Well, maybe the third. Out around scenic Arizona. There's obviously some fault systems out there. Also some very old ancient volcanoes. Non-active, obviously. But there's a number of fault systems out here all across Arizona. And the slip rate out here is fairly slow, right? It takes a long time for stress to build up on some of these active fault zones. But they're starting to show here. We're starting to get some notification, some noticeable earthquake activity there away from the plate boundary, well inland. And I believe it's just a sign here of the strain out against the west coast. That's the plate boundary. That's the San Andreas Fault. All these other fault systems here inland, just a result of the strain. So kind of watching that. Very noticeable pattern out here today.
Good morning, folks. Welcome, observers. Today we've got a look at solar activity. We'll see a solid paper on magnetic crochet, solar flare, ionospheric impact, and since about a bajillion of you are asking for the magnetic pole tracker on the government website, I'll repost that today as well. We're starting with the last 24 hours on our star. Very quiet, but like water wanting to boil and only having those first few bubbles coming up to the surface. We are crackling, small flares. There's filament destabilizations, especially on the north. The sun should be ramping up over the next few weeks for the Riger cycle uptick, but for now, the sunspots provide only moderate flare risk. They could be bigger, definitely could be more complex, and the biggest groups are departing on the south. For the next couple of days, the primary alert will be from the plasma filaments and the solar wind enhancement from the southern coronal hole, the big dark patch. None of it is expected to provide severe space weather. So folks, we often go over the ionospheric impact spread globally from the auroras during solar storms, which excite the weather everywhere via the global electric circuit. But there's another way, a faster way, where the sun does the same thing. The solar flare ionospheric impact, the magnetic crochet. This study looked at the Mother's Day solar storm sequence, which began exactly 11 months ago today, noting that 38 of the strong flares over the next week lit up the electric layers at the top of the sky. These impact on the sunlit side but spread just as quickly, and don't wait for the CME to arrive. They can even cause geomagnetic storm conditions if they're big enough. And practically, they matter because this same excitement at altitude is where the ceiling of the global electric circuit can be found. Doesn't matter if it's a flare or full-blown geostorm, it can touch every cloud, every drop of rain, every sunny inch of the surface. Folks, along with that paper, you have this in your link list below today. I hadn't realized so many of you didn't grab the link last time. Only takes about 4 minutes to learn to play around with the site. Its positioning is pretty accurate, and it clearly shows every acceleration and pre-speed up slowdown, which we just had in the pole movement. They won't update this again for 5 years, but by then, this is going to be one of the most important data sites on Earth.
Let me ask you something that might shake your soul a little. Have you ever felt like you're not really from here? Not in a metaphorical, romanticized way, but in a bone-deep, mind-bending, timeline-collapsing kind of way. Like your consciousness is older than the earth you're walking on, that you've lived 1,000 lives in a single moment, that your dreams feel more real than waking life. If you've ever felt that, not as a fantasy but as a quiet knowing, then this message might not be new to you. It might be a reminder, because you may be one of the very rare beings walking this earth who is not simply spiritually gifted or highly intuitive, but something far more rare and sacred. You may be a multidimensional chosen one. I know that sounds dramatic, like something from a sci-fi movie, but stay with me. What if I told you that all across the cosmos there are souls who volunteer, yes, volunteer, to incarnate across multiple dimensions, realities, and timelines? What if I told you that you are one of these souls, and that the reason you feel like an outsider, the reason you've suffered so much, the reason you're so sensitive to energy, to people, to pain, is because you're not from a single dimension. You're from all of them, and you've come here with a mission encoded so deeply in your being, even you forgot it until now. So, how do we know? How do we recognize such a soul when the world is designed to make them feel like they're imagining it all? That's what this video is. This is not entertainment. This is sacred technology, a decoding process, a soul mirror. And if this resonates, it's not because I'm saying anything new. It's because you already know. You've just been waiting for someone to say it out loud. The first sign you're a multidimensional chosen one is that you've never fully identified with being human. You might have tried, of course. You've played the game, you've put on the mask, you've gone to school, gotten jobs, maybe even built a life that looks normal. But no matter how much you do, there's always this persistent, humming sense of dissonance, a feeling that something is off. That the way people live, think, and treat each other is so fundamentally strange, it feels almost alien. And here's the truth. It is strange to you because your soul didn't originate in this density. You're used to higher frequencies where telepathy replaces small talk, where energy speaks louder than words, where unity is the default and separation is the illusion. Earth is like a spiritual boot camp for you, and every day you're trying to remember how to operate in a body, in a society, in a timeline that feels like a simulation. That feeling, that's not a glitch. That's your soul remembering its origin. The second sign is that you've always had multidimensional perception, even if you didn't have the language for it. Maybe since childhood you've seen things others didn't, felt presences in the room, had dreams that came true, or maybe you could feel people's emotions before they even spoke. You might have had spontaneous out-of-body experiences, vivid déjà vu, or the uncanny ability to know things before they happen. You may have even believed you were crazy at times because no one around you reflected your reality back to you. But the truth is, your consciousness is tuned to multiple frequencies at once. You're not just perceiving the 3D world, you're picking up on the 4D, 5D, and beyond. You're reading timelines. You're feeling parallel versions of yourself. And sometimes it overwhelms you, not because you're broken, but because your system is trying to function in a world that's not built for your bandwidth. Let me ask you something radical. What if your sensitivity is not a weakness, but a superpower? The third sign is that you've always felt a deep, unexplainable mission in your soul, even if you don't know what it is yet. There's a tension that lives inside you, a fire, a restlessness that doesn't go away even when life is good. You might have achieved things, healed things, even reached moments of peace, but there's always this sense that you're meant for more, that you came here to do something important, even if you can't name it. That feeling, that's your soul contract vibrating in your bones. Because you didn't come here to live a small life. You didn't come here to just survive. You came here to shift the grid, to anchor codes, to awaken others, to create art, systems, movements that transcend time. And that mission isn't just about doing, it's about becoming. It's about remembering who you truly are, so that your very presence becomes an activation for those around you. And here's the fourth sign. You've experienced extreme polarity in this life, deep trauma, intense loss, cycles of death and rebirth that seem almost mythic in nature. Why? Because multidimensional souls often choose the most challenging life paths, not because they enjoy suffering, but because they're here to transmute it, because they know that the only way to truly shift humanity is to embody the pain of it and then alchemize it into light. You've been shattered because you have the capacity to rebuild yourself in a way that literally rewrites the blueprint of what's possible for others. When you heal, you don't just heal yourself, you heal your lineage, your soul group, your collective field, and the deeper your darkness has gone, the higher your light will rise. This is not spiritual fluff. This is quantum mechanics. Your DNA carries memory from other dimensions, and every time you choose to rise instead of fold, you collapse old timelines and activate new ones.
The mystery surrounding the Emerald Tablets is not just about their content, but about their purpose. Why were they written in a form that would last forever? Why do they speak of things that modern science is only beginning to explore? Energy fields, dimensions beyond our perception, the ability to transcend physical limitations. If these tablets were truly the work of an enlightened being, then they are more than just historical artifacts. They are a blueprint for transformation, a roadmap to unlocking abilities that have been hidden from us for centuries. But Thoth's greatest secret wasn't just wisdom, it was the key to something far more powerful. He claimed to have discovered the path to immortality, not through physical preservation, but through mastering the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. If true, then death itself may not be the end, but a doorway to something much greater. The Emerald Tablets do not just tell the story of an ancient civilization, they reveal the very structure of existence itself. The greatest fear of mankind has always been death. Every civilization, every culture, every religion has wrestled with the same question: what happens when we die? Is it the end, or merely a transition? The Emerald Tablets do not speak in riddles about this. They do not comfort with poetic metaphors or empty reassurances. They state, with absolute certainty, that death is an illusion, a veil that hides the deeper truth of existence. Thoth did not just claim to have knowledge of the afterlife, he claimed to have mastered it. He did not merely study the cycles of life and death, he broke free from them. And if his words are to be believed, so can we. The Emerald Tablets describe a system of reincarnation not as a belief, but as a law of existence, as real and unchanging as gravity. Thoth speaks of existing beyond time, of consciously choosing when and where to be reborn. He describes the ability to move between bodies, to retain memories across lifetimes, to exist outside the constraints of linear time. But this power is not freely given. It is earned through knowledge, through discipline, through understanding the deeper structure of reality itself. According to the tablets, most people die and are pulled back into the cycle, reborn without memory, trapped in an endless loop of forgetting and rediscovery. But those who awaken, those who understand the nature of the soul, can break free. They can choose their rebirth, choose their purpose, and ultimately transcend the cycle altogether. This idea is not unique to the Emerald Tablets. Many ancient spiritual traditions describe something eerily similar. The Tibetan Book of the Dead details how to navigate the afterlife consciously, guiding the soul toward liberation rather than rebirth. Hinduism speaks of moksha, the breaking of the karmic cycle, the realization that the self is infinite. The Gnostics, the Hermetics, the mystery schools of the ancient world, all of them hinted at a knowledge that led to freedom from the reincarnation trap. But why is it that these teachings were suppressed? Why is it that modern society tells us that death is final, that our consciousness is nothing more than a byproduct of the brain? Because a population that fears death is a population that can be controlled. A population that believes life is one fleeting moment of existence will live in fear, will cling to materialism, and will seek comfort in external authority. But a population that knows they are eternal, that is a force that cannot be governed. The Emerald Tablets do not just explain that life continues beyond death. They explain how to take control of that transition. Thoth speaks of energy fields, of vibrational frequencies, of aligning the soul with higher dimensions. He describes a process of raising one's consciousness, of shedding the limitations of the physical body to enter a state of existence beyond time. And here is where modern science begins to catch up with ancient wisdom. The study of near-death experiences, the strange phenomena observed in quantum physics, the testimonies of mystics and meditators who have accessed altered states of reality, all of it points to the same truth. Consciousness is not confined to the brain. It is not bound by the body. It is something far greater, something that exists beyond the physical, beyond death. But this knowledge is dangerous to those who wish to maintain power. If people understood that their existence does not end when their body dies, the entire structure of fear-based control would collapse. Governments, religions, and corporations thrive on the fear of loss, the fear of suffering, the fear of the unknown. But what happens when there is no fear? What happens when people remember that they have always existed and will always exist? They wake up. They refuse to be manipulated. They begin to seek higher knowledge, real knowledge, the kind that leads to freedom. This is what the Emerald Tablets offer, a path to breaking free from the cycle of life and death, a path to awakening the full potential of consciousness. And those who follow this path do not just read about the secrets of immortality, they experience them. They learn to separate their awareness from the physical form, to navigate realms beyond this one, to return with wisdom from dimensions beyond human perception. This is not fantasy. It is not superstition. It is knowledge that has been buried, locked away, hidden in symbols and secret societies for millennia. But if Thoth mastered these cycles, if he truly broke free from the wheel of reincarnation, then the question remains, where is he now? Did he ascend beyond our reality? Or is he still here, watching, guiding those who are ready to see? The tablets hint that those who achieve this level of mastery are never truly gone. They move through time, through dimensions, unseen by those still trapped in the illusion of physical reality. They wait for those who seek truth, those who prove themselves worthy of the next level of understanding. And the deeper we go, the clearer it becomes that this is only the beginning. Because the Emerald Tablets do not just explain how to escape death, they explain the very laws that govern the universe itself. They reveal the structure of reality, the forces that shape existence, and how those who understand them can reshape their world.